Company safety policy. Division 26 is committed to the health and safety of our employees and anyone who enters our workplace to prevent workplace-induced injuries, illnesses, damage, and accidental loss of physical assets. Safety is the responsibility of all managers, supervisors, workers, and contractors at every level. Division 26 believes that all incidents and injuries can be prevented and that hazards can be controlled or eliminated by providing and maintaining a safe work environment for our people. Management responsibilities. Management is accountable for the implementation and ongoing awareness of the safety program. Management also provides information, instruction, and assistance to all supervisory staff in order to protect the health and safety of all employees. They provide appropriate equipment and tools and implement policies and procedures. Supervisors' responsibilities. Supervisors provide safe working conditions for all workers under his or her supervision. They ensure employees use the appropriate PPE, for example, hard hats, safety glasses, goggles, masks, and respirators. They correct physical conditions that are liable to cause or have caused incidents. They implement policies and procedures and undertake the investigation of incidents, injuries, or near misses to identify the underlying causes. They also enforce safety regulations and take disciplinary actions as necessary to ensure compliance. Worker responsibilities. Workers are responsible for their personal safety and the safety of those workers around them. Read, understand, and comply with HVAC Solutions safety policies, practices, procedures, and rules. Take every reasonable precaution to protect their health and safety and the health and safety of those working with or around them. Wear personal protective or safety equipment and clothing as required by safety regulations. Report all injuries, incidents, unsafe acts, unsafe conditions, and near misses to their supervisor immediately, and attend and actively participate in safety meetings and toolbox talks. Employers, supervisors, and workers' rights. Under OH&S regulation, each and every worker in Canada has the right to know, the right to participate, and the right to refuse dangerous work. The right to know. All employees have the right to know what hazards are present on the job and how these hazards can affect them. You usually learn about these hazards during health and safety meetings, training, and through on-the-job instruction. The right to participate. All employees have the right to take part in health and safety activities. You also have a right to report unsafe practices and conditions without worrying that you will be reprimanded. The right to refuse dangerous work. All employees must refuse work that is dangerous to themselves or to the coworkers. Employees shall report the circumstances of the refusal to their supervisor immediately. The supervisor shall investigate the circumstances before any work is to be performed. OH&S legislation. Division 26's Industrial Code under the Workers' Compensation Board relates to working on electrical systems in residential, commercial, and industrial locations. There are relevant sections in the Nova Scotia's OH&S Act regulation and code that are applicable to the task that Division 26 Inc. performs. Safety legislation is designed to protect the workers, the public, and the environment. It is the obligation of all employees to know and follow legislative requirements relevant to the work activities that they perform. A copy of the Nova Scotia OH&S Act regulation and code is available to all workers on their iPhones and at the main office. Company rules. Wear personal protective equipment as required and keep it in good condition. Always obtain a valid work permit or confined space permit where required. Always obtain a valid hot work permit where required. Ensure that you are mentally and physically prepared to perform your job each and every day. Use the right tools for the job and use them correctly. Use, adjust, or repair equipment only when authorized and trained to do so. Keep your work area clean and orderly. Fighting, horseplay, practical jokes, and/or abuse or misuse of company property is prohibited. Possession, consumption, or trafficking of alcohol or illegal drugs on company premises or the job site is prohibited. Report all health concerns, injuries, incidents, accidents, near misses, damage, security, and environmental issues to your supervisor or your foreman immediately. Company rules. Know and apply all safety, health, environmental policies, practices, and procedures, and follow all posted signs, rules, and instructions. A field level hazard assessment must be completed prior to the start of a task or when conditions change. Know the location of first aid kits, fire extinguishers, and eye wash stations in your area. Employees must be familiar with and follow the evacuation procedures for their area. Do not operate any mobile or other equipment without first being properly trained and certified on the equipment. Employees must understand the proper use, conservation, and maintenance of their personal protective equipment. Do not wear any specialized personal protective equipment without first being trained and certified on the PPE. All moving parts or dangerous points of machinery or equipment must be guarded against contact by a worker. Tampering with guards on a machinery, example a table saw or handheld tools like an angle grinder, is prohibited. Access to doors, exits, and fire extinguishers must be kept clear at all times. Vehicle policy. Employees who have the use of vehicles supplied by Division 26, Inc. must adhere to the following guidelines. Drivers must produce a current driver's abstract. Unauthorized personal use of a company vehicle may result in loss of vehicle privileges or more serious discipline. Any violations, whether it be speeding or parking, will be deducted from the employee's paycheck or more serious discipline. Every driver must possess an up-to-date and appropriate class of driver's license. It is the driver's responsibility to maintain the cleanliness of the vehicle, both inside and out. It is the driver's responsibility to complete weekly inspections and notify the office of any required maintenance. Use of company vehicles while under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs will result in immediate termination. Smoking is prohibited in the workplace and including company-supplied vehicles. And the use of cell phones or electronic devices like laptops, GPS, or radars while driving is strictly prohibited. Life-saving rules. Life-saving rules prevent fatalities. They are non-negotiable, and non-compliance will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment. Compliance with the Fall Protection Program is mandatory. Compliance with the Confined Space Entry Program is mandatory. Compliance with the Energy Control Lockout-Tagout Program is mandatory. Working under suspended loads is prohibited. Operating mobile equipment such as cranes, hoists, forklifts, zoom booms, and aerial work platforms without specific documented training is prohibited. Working without the correctly completed required permits duly signed is prohibited. Disabling a mechanical or electrical safety device except for troubleshooting is prohibited. Reporting to or performing work while in possession of or under the influence of dangerous or illegal drugs or alcohol is prohibited. And lastly, falsification of safety records and documentation is prohibited. Safety enforcement. Whenever there's an intention to work unsafe or whenever there is a reoccurrence of safety violations, Division 26 will act on disciplinary procedures. Corrective action will result in one of the following: verbal reprimand, written reprimand, or discharge. Hazard identification and assessment. Every workplace consists of 5 major components. When conducting a hazard assessment, all 5 of these components must be examined and evaluated to see what hazards are present. These are people, the environment they work in, the materials they work with, the tools and equipment they use, and the processes that they use. The required elimination, substitution, engineering, administrative, and PPE controls are then identified for each hazard and must be put in place prior to starting work. Hazard identification and assessment. Types of hazards. Biological. It can consist of bacteria, viruses, insects, plants, birds, animals, humans, etc. Chemical. Depends on physical, chemical, and toxic properties of the chemical. Ergonomic. Repetitive movements, improper setup of workstations, etc. Physical. Radiation, magnetic fields, temperature and pressure extremes, vacuum, noise, etc. Psychosocial, stress, violence, etc. Safety, slip, trip hazards, unsafe machine guarding, equipment malfunctions, and breakdowns. Types of controls. Elimination. The ultimate control measure is to eliminate the condition or act presenting the hazard. Substitution. Substituting one material or piece of equipment for a less hazardous one, or a particular work activity with a safer method. Engineering controls. Engineering designs and control measures should be made at the conceptual stage of the project. Examples include guarding, sensor devices, screens, ergonomics, alarm systems. Administrative controls include preventative maintenance, inspections, training, and orientation, safe work practices and formal hazard assessments, signage, policies, and procedures. Personal protective equipment. PPE should be considered only as a last line of defense or has a backup protection. PPE may be used as a supplement to these other controls, but not as a substitute for them. Formal hazard assessment. All levels of the company will be involved in the formal hazard assessment process. When completing a formal hazard assessment, the steps are to identify the task associated to the work, identify health and safety hazards associated to each task, including biological, chemical, ergonomic, physical, or psychosocial, rank the hazards from their inherent hazard level, low to extreme, analyze ways to eliminate or substitute the hazards associated to each task, identify the appropriate engineering, administration, and PPE controls, and then rank the hazard after controls to identify the remaining level of risk. Safe work practices. Safe work practices are generally written methods outlining how to perform a task with minimum risk to people, equipment, materials, environment, and processes. All levels of the company will be involved in reviewing safe work practices. SWP help identify the appropriate engineering, administrative, and PPE controls. All workers are to follow company safe work procedures for all jobs, tasks performed. Workers must be familiar with their responsibilities associated to performing the tasks. Workers must ensure the correct PPE and controls are in place as per the SWP, and managers and supervisors are responsible for providing the required SWP training and information, including PPE, SDS, and resources to implement controls. Safe work practices may include driving, elevated work platforms, energy lockout tagout, use of power and hand tools, and use of portable ladders. Site-specific hazard assessment. The Field Level Hazard Assessment, or FLHA, is the process used by HVAC Solutions to identify and assess potential and existing hazards of tasks to be performed on customer work sites. The site-specific hazard assessment is a tool used for individuals and teams to assist them in working more safely on the job site. The goal is to eliminate risk completely in all tasks. There are 5 simple steps to the FLHA process. Number 1, stop and think. Number 2, identify the hazards. Number 3, assess those hazards. Number 4, take action to control the risks. And number 5, start or resume your work. Site-specific hazard assessment. It is mandatory to complete a field-level hazard assessment prior to starting the job or task, before beginning a new task, if an aspect of the job or task has changed, a new activity has been temporarily introduced, repeated when conditions have changed, if others have joined the task, changes in environment, if new materials, tools, and/or equipment have been introduced into the work area, when work is being conducted at temporary or mobile work sites, and when work is being conducted at a work site not owned by the employer. Incident reporting policy. All health concerns, injuries, illnesses, incidents, major near misses, and work refusals will be reported to the supervisor immediately and will be documented on the incident report form. If an incident occurs on a client site, then the client site contact must also be made aware. Incidents that must be reported include injuries, vehicle incident and accidents, fires, explosions, damage and vandalism, chemical spills, near misses, and work refusal and risk of immediate danger, including all occupational illnesses, hearing loss, repetitive motion injuries, severe fatigue, sight loss, or respiratory problems. Near-miss reporting. A near miss is an event or situation that under different circumstances would have resulted in loss to people, materials, equipment, or the environment. The process for managing a near miss will include the following. Identification of a near miss. The event is to be recorded by the employee identifying the near miss. The employee can include any ideas that can be addressed in eliminating or reducing the potential to cause injury or loss. Number 2, reporting a near miss. Near miss reporting forms are available for employees to fill out and can be submitted either to the manager or supervisor. Number 3, corrective actions. It is the manager's responsibility to ensure that corrective actions related to the reported near misses are to be put into place to ensure it cannot lead to an actual incident. And number 4, communication. Near misses and the corrective actions related to them are to be shared with employees at company safety meetings. Investigation procedure. Investigations shall be performed to find the root cause and assign action to control the hazard and prevent the reoccurrence. Division 26 shall conduct an investigation on the following types of incidents: injuries, occupational illness, vehicle or mobile equipment accidents, fires, electrical shock, major potentials or near misses, major chemical spills, major environmental impacts. Determining the root cause of the incident will serve 2 purposes: the corrective action required to resolve the current failure and the preventative action necessary to eliminate its reoccurrence. Investigation responsibilities. All Division 26 employees are responsible to take action to eliminate or reduce any further risk to people or equipment immediately following an incident. Freeze the scene. Do not perform any housekeeping activities that may destroy evidence. Verbally notify or report the incident immediately to your supervisor. Record necessary information on the incident report, and provide support and assist in the investigation as required. Supervisors are responsible to inform their immediate supervisor or manager of any serious or major incident, determine the basic, immediate, and root cause, actual and potential severity of an incident and the probability of reoccurrence, ensure the incident report is completed for all incidents, and ensure that all incidents meeting the previously specified criteria are given a formal investigation, and then lead and/or participate in investigations as required. Personal protective equipment policy. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, is used to protect workers and is used as the last line of defense. Employees shall use PPE in compliance with the Nova Scotia OH&S Act. The following will be practiced by the company and employees while a company undertakes any task or project. All basic PPE will be made available to employees as specific tasks require it. This includes safety glasses, hearing protection, hard hat, and work gloves. Specialized PPE and training will be provided where job-specific requirements exist. The use of appropriate PPE will be monitored and enforcement implemented for non-compliance. All PPE will be maintained in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and requirements. All PPE used by this company will be within the requirements of OH&S regulations and CSA standards. No piece of PPE will be modified or changed contrary to its manufacturer's instructions or specifications. Protective footwear. Safety footwear is designed to protect against foot hazards in the workplace, such as compression, puncture, and impact injuries. Employees shall wear CSA-approved steel-toed safety boots only. High-cut boots are to be worn to provide ankle protection and support. Choose footwear according to the job hazard and approved standards. Lace your boots to the top and tie them securely. Employees shall not wear defective footwear, underprotect their feet, modify safety footwear, or wear boots that show signs of deterioration. Eye and face protection. Eye and face protection is designed to protect against hazards such as flying objects or debris. Basic eye and face protection may include safety glasses, goggles, and face shields. Employees shall ensure their eyewear fits properly, clean eyewear daily or as needed, store their safety eyewear in a safe, clean, and dry place when not in use, replace pitted, scratched, bent, or poorly fitted safety eyewear, and wear proper safety glasses over any prescription lenses. Employees shall not modify their eyewear in any way, use eyewear that is not CSA approved, and contact lenses are not to be worn at the work site. Hand protection. It is mandatory that hand protection be worn by all employees when handling rough, sharp-edged, abrasive material or when subject to hand lacerations, punctures, burns, or bruises. Employees shall wear the proper glove for the task being performed, and these can include leather gloves, cut-resistant gloves, rubber gloves, or anti-vibration gloves. Ensure the gloves are a proper fit. Keep the gloves close by for easy use. Replace worn gloves. Employees shall not underprotect their hands, wear worn, damaged, or modified gloves, wear gloves covered with a slippery substance such as oil or grease, wear hand protection containing metal parts near electrical equipment, or wear gloves which are likely to become entangled when working around machinery. Hearing protection. Hearing protection is designed to reduce the level of sound energy reaching the inner ear. It is mandatory that hearing protection be worn when sound levels exceed 85 decibels. In some areas, signage is posted as to where level of hearing protection is required, whether it be single earplugs or earmuffs or double earplugs and earmuffs. Employees shall wear the proper CSA approved ear protection for the noise level. Ensure it is a proper fit, replace worn or damaged hearing protection, and employees shall not underprotect their hearing, wear damaged hearing protection, or modify their hearing protection. Head protection. Safety headgear such as hard hats are designed to protect the head from the impact of falling objects. It is mandatory that head protection be worn when overhead hazards are present. Both parts of the head protection must be compatible and maintained according to the manufacturer's instructions. Replace headgear that is pitted, holed, cracked, or brittle. Replace headgear that has been subjected to a blow even though damage cannot be seen. Remove from service any headgear if its serviceability is in doubt. Replace headgear and components according to manufacturer's instruction. Consult regulations or the supplier for additional information on headgear. Employees shall not alter the shell or suspension in any way. Use any liner that contains metal or conductive material. Carry anything in the headgear while wearing it, or wear ball caps under the headgear, or wear their headgear in an improper direction. Respiratory protection. Where there is a potential for working in a hazardous atmosphere, it is mandatory for all workers involved to do a hazard assessment and identify the correct respiratory protection. When choosing the respiratory protection, consult the safety data sheet, OH&S, or a safety supplier for the exact specifications for the correct type, size, and filtration required. Use only CSA-approved respiratory protection equipment. Ensure that respirators are properly cleaned and disinfected after each shift according to the manufacturer's instructions. Dispose of exhausted cartridges and masks in sealed bags. Read cartridge labels and follow the manufacturer's instructions. Keep unused filters separate from old used ones. Employees shall not use APRs in confined spaces or potential existing oxygen-deprived atmospheres, or use APRs for protection against material which are toxic, or use with gases that cannot be detected by their odor or that cause nose or throat irritation, and never use with gases that are not effectively halted by chemical cartridges despite the concentration. Fall protection. Employees must be trained in the proper donning and inspection requirements prior to use. All employees must wear CSA-approved fall protection and comply with Nova Scotia's OH&S regulations. All personnel will wear a body harness and lanyard when working at a height where a fall of 6 feet or more might occur, when working over and operating machinery that cannot be guarded, when working on an aerial work platform, lift truck platform, or forklift cage. Employees shall wear the proper size of fall protection and ensure straps are tightened. Inspect their fall protection before each use and inspect for worn or damaged fall protection. Employees shall not wear fall protection that has been involved in a previous fall, wear damaged fall protection, or modify their fall protection. Protective clothing. Flame-resistant clothing or coveralls must be worn when there is a potential for exposure to or contact with welding or electrical equipment, or as mandated by client policy. Clothing that melts without burning can cause significant and extreme damage. To reduce the possibility of clothing melting to the skin or burning, the clothing workers wear beneath their flame-resistant outerwear must be made of flame-resistant fabric or natural fibers. Examples of appropriate natural fibers include wool, cotton, and silk. Employees shall wear company uniform when provided, wear coveralls when mandated on any client work sites, wear long sleeve shirts and long pants when mandated on any client work sites, wear FR clothing when carrying out any hot works, wear high visual clothing when identified as a control on a hazard assessment or when mandated on any client work sites, and wear the appropriate layers and face covering when working in low temperature extremes. Emergency preparedness. When an emergency arises in the work area or at the work site, HVAC Solutions employees are to follow the area emergency response plan. Potential emergency scenarios: working alone, injuries or illnesses, transporting ill or injured workers, first aid, emergency rescue procedures, evacuation incidents, confined space, fire or explosion, working at heights rescue, motor vehicle incidents, chemical spills, gas leaks, or workplace violence. In the event of an emergency, immediately do the following. Assess the scene and ensure your safety. If required, call 911 or client site emergency numbers. Seek help as required and freeze the evidence. Contact your supervisor or foreman, and workers must wear and use personal protective equipment appropriate to the work site and the emergency itself. Handling severe injuries or illnesses. Any injuries or illnesses that cannot be properly treated at the immediate area will be dealt with in the following manner. If the employee cannot walk or communicate, or if the injury or illness is thought to be severe, local emergency services should be contacted. Call 911 or the client site emergency number, state your name, the nature of the emergency, and your location. Place the worker in a comfortable position at a safe location and await the arrival of emergency response personnel. The supervisor or foreman will be responsible for making sure that the employee's family is notified. Emergency preparedness first aid. Supervisors or designated persons are to be trained and certified in basic first aid procedures. Only trained and qualified personnel shall perform first aid. Affected workers must also be taken to the on-site medical facility or hospital for further examination. For in-town first aid requirements, first aid is to be provided by properly designated first aiders only, or be transported to the local hospitals for examination. First aid kits are located at the head office and in all company service vehicles. Evacuation incident. When an evacuation is required, the following basic steps are to be taken. Sound the evacuation alarm for the project. All personnel are to proceed to the designated muster point. Foremen are responsible to account for their crews and to conduct a head count at the muster point. The foreman will report the head count results to the appropriate party. If anyone is missing from the head count, the superintendent will report this to emergency services so that they can take appropriate action. Employees working on a client site shall follow the client site emergency evacuation protocol. Fire procedures. In case of fire or explosion, follow the evacuation procedures listed below. First, activate the emergency fire alarm. Immediately call 911 or the client site emergency number. State your name and the location of the fire. All employees are to exit immediately and meet in the designated assembly area or muster point. The supervisor or foreman will conduct a head count to ensure all employees are accounted for. Employees will not re-enter the area until given an all clear by emergency response personnel. Client site employees will follow client site emergency response procedures. All company supplied vehicles must carry a 20-pound ABC type fire extinguisher. Types of fires. Class A, combustibles. These fires consist of wood, paper, rags, and rubbish. Fire extinguisher type. Use water from a hose pump or pressurized extinguisher. How to fight that fire? Soak the fire completely, including smoldering embers and ashes. Class B, flammable liquids. These fires consist of oils and greases. The fire extinguisher type, ABC units, dry chemical, foam, and carbon dioxide extinguisher. Fighting the fire, start at the base of the fire. Use a swing motion from side to side, always keeping the fire in front of you and an exit point in your view. Class C, energized electrical equipment. Recommended extinguisher, the carbon dioxide and dry chemical. ABC unit. Fighting that fire, use short bursts on the fire when the electricity is shut off. Class C fires can become a Class A fire if only materials are ignited. Gas leak evacuation. The emergency procedures for natural gas emergencies are similar to that for fire emergencies. If you smell natural gas, leave the area. Sound the fire alarm. Do not turn electrical switches on or off. Do not use a phone or a cellular phone inside the building. Do not use any potential ignition sources or open flames. Do not use elevators and always use stairs. Immediately evacuate the building by way of the shortest and safest exit route. If possible to accomplish within seconds, leave windows and exterior doors open to ventilate the area. Go to a safe area or muster assembly area for the building. Call 911 and wait emergency response personnel. If trapped during a gas release emergency, close doors between you and the gas leak, stuff the cracks around the door, open windows or any exterior openings for ventilation, wait at a window, call 911 and signal for help. WHMIS. All workers must hold a current WHMIS 2015 certificate. It is mandatory that HVAC solution workers follow all WHMIS procedures. Training will encompass generic and site-specific WHMIS training, including label identification, safety data sheets, hazard symbols, spill reporting and cleanup, disposal of all hazardous products. All employees are responsible to ensure they complete WHMIS training as required by the company. They check the SDS before using a product they are unfamiliar with, reporting any spills of hazardous products and assist with the cleanup as required. Ensure that all products are properly labeled. Labeling temporary or one-time use containers. Do not remove, deface, or cover any labels on hazardous products. Do not remove, deface, or cover any other warning signs like TGA placards or labels. They dispose of unused or contaminated products that may be hazardous in the approved location or holding vessel for disposal or recycling. Fit for duty, workers' responsibilities. Ensure that they are mentally and physically prepared to perform their job each and every day. This includes not being under any impairment or the influence from alcohol or prescription or illegal drugs. Report to the supervisor or foreman if they are taking any prescription or over-the-counter medications or drugs that may cause impairment and affect their ability to perform their work-related activities in a safe manner. To report to the supervisor or foreman when they observe another worker who may be unfit for work. To ensure that they report all health concerns, injuries, incidents, accidents, near misses, damage, security, and environmental issues to their supervisor or foreman immediately. To ensure that they do not perform work for which they are not properly trained to do so. To ensure that they have with them any certifications to provide when asked for. Drug and alcohol. No employee of Division 26 or any of their subcontractors shall distribute, possess, consume, or be under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs on any company job site. Workers are responsible to ensure they understand and comply with this alcohol and drug policy. They are to take responsibility to ensure their own safety and the safety of others. Ensure that they comply with the work standards as part of their obligation, and comply with the drug and alcohol policy and follow appropriate treatment if deemed necessary. Use medications responsibly. Be aware of potential side effects and notify your supervisor of potential unsafe side effects, if any. And encourage their peers or coworkers to seek help when there is a potential breach or a breach of policy. Prohibitions. The following are prohibited while on company property or at any client work site. The use, possession, cultivation, manufacture, storage, distribution, offering, or sale of alcohol, illicit drugs, or drug paraphernalia. The possession, storage, or use of prescription medications prescribed for another individual or without being able to produce a legally, medically obtained prescription. The distribution, offering, or sale of medications, reporting to work or being at work while not fit for duty, the intentional misuse of medications, both prescription and non-prescription, using medications that could impact safe work performance without investigating the potential safety impact, having a blood alcohol concentration of 0.02% or higher. Workers performing safety-sensitive work are prohibited from consuming alcohol during their working hours, also required to limit their consumption of alcohol prior to working hours so that there is no alcohol level in the body while at work, and having a drug level equal to or in excess of the limits for the drugs. Testing policy and procedures. If an employee has been charged with an impaired driving-related offense or has received an administrative temporary license suspension as a result of impaired driving, the employee must advise HVAC Solution Management immediately. Pre-employment testing. All HVAC Solutions employees will be required to have pre-employment drug and alcohol testing as a condition of employment. Post-incident testing. Workers may be subject to testing for alcohol and specified drugs after any serious or potential serious incident has occurred. Pre-access testing. Workers may be required to pass a pre-access alcohol and drug test prior to beginning work at client sites. Random drug and alcohol testing. While working on some client sites, they may require a random drug and alcohol screening test. Testing for reasonable cause. Workers may require a test whenever there is a reason to suspect that the actions, appearance, or conduct of an employee indicates the use of alcohol or drugs. Drug and alcohol. Employees who suspect they have a substance dependency and are able to comply with the policy must request help through the company supervisor or safety rep for the administration of the Employee Assistance Program. Employees will be supported through any recommended treatment and aftercare program consistent with the appropriate agency or professional's recommendations. Assessing assistance or declaring a problem does not eliminate the requirement for maintaining safe and acceptable performance levels, compliance with this policy, and the requirement to be fit for duty. Division 26 reserves the right to investigate any situation where there are reasonable grounds to believe that alcohol, drugs, or drug paraphernalia are present on any company premises or company vehicles in a violation of this policy. Violence and harassment policy. Division 26 is committed to ensuring that all employees have the right to work in an environment free of harassment. They will investigate any incidents of harassment or violence and take corrective action to address the incidents and not disclose the circumstances, names, persons, or witnesses related to any incident, except where necessary to investigate the incident or take corrective action, or to inform the parties involved in the incident of the results of the investigation and any corrective action to be taken to address the incident, and where necessary to inform workers of a specific or general threat of violence or potential violence as required by law. Harassment and violence in the workplace is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Employees' rights and responsibilities. Every employee of the HVAC Solution has the right to a harassment-free workplace, the right to a workplace free from violence or the threat of violence, the right to confidentiality when reporting any occurrence of harassment or violence, the responsibility to treat other employees with respect, the responsibility to report work-related incidents involving harassment or violence, and the responsibility to ensure all available control measures to reduce, eliminate violence in the workplaces are followed, including but not limited to restricting access to work areas, locking doors, securing site key cards, activating the alarms, closing construction fencing, lighting work areas, utilizing company personal protective devices and cell phones, completing requested background checks, and following all company and customer security procedures and emergency response procedures. Reporting procedure. When an employee feels that he or she is being harassed, it is encouraged to first try an informal approach if they are comfortable in doing so. Make it known to the alleged harasser that their behavior is objectionable and that it must stop. If an informal approach is not possible or proves to be ineffective, an employee shall notify their immediate supervisor of the harassment. Supervisors will notify senior management, and a formal complaint will be registered and an investigation conducted. Employees have the right to expect confidentiality through the complaint process and ensuing investigation. If the complaint involves their supervisor, complaint should be forwarded to the senior management. All incidents of violence or threats of violence must be reported. The supervisor, manager, or senior manager will proceed to document and investigate the incident of harassment and/or violence and implement any measures to eliminate or control the hazard. Where an investigation substantiates the allegation of harassment or violence, HVAC Solution Management shall take appropriate and immediate action. Following the investigation, HVAC Solutions will inform the parties involved in the incident of harassment and/or violence of number 1, the result of an investigation of the incident and any corrective actions taken to address the incident. Health and Safety Representative. Division 26 will appoint a health and safety representative who works with the employer to identify and solve health and safety concerns at the worksite. The HS rep forms an important part of the internal responsibility system by creating mutual accountability for health and safety. The HS representative promotes awareness and interest in health and safety and will provide support for the 3 basic rights for all: the right to know, the right to participate, and the right to refuse dangerous work. Some of these duties include receiving and addressing concerns and complaints about the health and safety of workers, participate in identification of hazards to workers arising out of or in connection with activities at the worksite, develop and promote measures to protect the health and safety of persons at the worksite and checking the effectiveness of the measures, develop and promote programs for education and information concerning health and safety, making recommendations to the employer or prime contractor or owner respecting the health and safety of the workers, and participating in investigations of serious injuries and incidents at the work site.